Hello and welcome to Justice Losers, the most unqualified podcast exploring irrelevant questions about entertainment. I'm your host, Preston, joined as always by my delightful co-host,
Batman. My timing's a little off because I changed the intro.
Matt. What should people do?
Like, subscribe, and are we still checking out our Instagram highlights?
Yeah.
Sure, check out our Instagram highlights.
That's not changing.
That's at Just Us Losers Pod. Yes.
Welcome to season 4.
What happened to the first 3 seasons, Preston?
I mean, they were all retroactively applied. This is the first season. This is the first time where we've actually said this is the beginning of a season. All seasons were retroactively applied in the middle of season 3. So
sounds good to me.
From this point on, we are doing 25 episode long seasons. Actually, from technically the beginning of season 3.
Yes.
We are doing 25 episode long seasons. And with a week break in between to make it an even nice 26, which if you know your maths is exactly half a year. So we got nice half year seasons, and we'll take a week off because God knows we all need it. Yeah, welcome to Justice Losers. Glad to have you if you're new. Glad for you to continue listening through season 4.
How have you made it this long if you're still listening?
Boy, you have thick skin.
Yep.
Matt, the movie industry is a very attractive industry.
Is it now?
Yeah, brings in a lot of people are like, you know what? I want to try my hand at that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a lot of colorful characters that do that.
Yeah.
You had people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I believe was a politician before.
No, he was a bodybuilder before.
He was a bodybuilder.
Politician
so you got a bodybuilder after, right? So you got that, and then you've got you got singers.
Oh, all the time.
Like Frank Ocean and
John Legend was in La La Land.
Yeah,
Beyonce keeps trying
Elvis
to be in things.
did it, and Frank Sinatra.
Rihanna was in Battleship.
Yeah, you got
Remember
actors,
when that was a thing?
Got all these musicians that keep coming in, and you get. It's really interesting to see this happen a lot.
Yeah.
Some of them more successful than others. Some of them drastically more successful than others.
Yes.
A great example. Dave Bautista is a great actor.
Yeah. As it turns out.
But he comes from wrestling.
I like how we're just sliding past Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the most successful transition there.
Oh, good example.
He's one of the biggest box office draws in Hollywood right now, and he started out as a wrestler.
Yeah. So I want to talk about...
Actually, he started out as a football player and then got injured and went to wrestling.
Exactly, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about all of these, like, all these industries you get people coming in and wanting to do acting from. Basically what we're doing for this episode is first part of a 2-part episode, basically, or 2-episode series. We're going to talk about people coming into acting, and then next week, you'll lead this one, we're talking about people who are actors who want to try their hand at directing.
Yeah, get behind the camera instead of in front of it.
Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit about what kind of drives a successful actor from a different industry, like people who didn't go through acting school. So let me ask you something. What do you think? I didn't have a specific question to lead you to anything, but I want to get you to talk. I've been talking a lot. So
oh boy, I've actually got to do work for this one.
Think about this. I've got an idea about a lot of this stuff.
It feels like there's just inevitably going to be a lot of cross-pollination between different entertainment fields.
Right.
People like being on stage. They like entertaining people. They like sort of the creative aspect of it. So you're going to get a lot of singers, a lot of comedians, a lot of just creative-minded people that like being public-facing. Yeah. And acting is kind of a nice, logical endpoint for that.
Right.
Pays well if you're good at it. It's probably the highest profile. Music and movies are as high profile as you get. Everyone's heard of Beyonce. Everyone's heard of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So you've got all these entertainers, and acting feels like one that if you have a proclivity for some other type of entertainment, some other thing where you have to get up there and have your public presence and do things, it feels like there's a lot of skills that would transfer nicely to acting, whereas going from acting to other mediums necessarily, there wouldn't be such a nice transference of skills. Like, you can be a really great actor and have a really good stage presence, say, doesn't mean you can carry a tune.
Right. So what kind of skills do you think are those transferable skills from being a stand-up comic or a singer that make it into acting?
Lack of stage fright. No, but like more seriously, the ability to, I guess in some sense, like a public facing charisma.
Okay.
The ability to just put on a show and have people convinced and entertained no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, you're starting to hit in like that. So one of my main points is specifically for stand-up comics is, real quick tangent here to set up a foundation of something we've talked about before.
Okay.
Comedic actors, such as John Krasinski and Jordan Peele, both being able to go and direct a horror movie. Comedy is one of those really, one of the best examples of being able to dig into into an audience's psyche.
Yeah, you can really provoke visceral reactions.
Yes, you are able to, if you are a successful comedian or a successful horror director, you are able to identify exactly what needs to happen to elicit the reaction you want.
Right.
And so I think that is one of those really crucial things when you have stand-up comics coming into the industry is they understand how to communicate something in their brain to have an audience feel that. Best example, Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Started as a stand-up comic in college. He was a stand-up comic, very successful stand-up comedian through his 20s. Tried his hand as acting. Couple years later, we get Good Will Hunting and his monologue that makes you sob.
Yeah.
The dude understands how to connect with the audience really, really well. And I think that's one of those really important things about stand-up comics is that they understand this, and when they try their hand, they're often very successful. You have others like Jerry Seinfeld gets his own sitcom. It's a comedy, so it typically they usually start in comedies and then go into more dramatic things as they prove themselves.
But, even Kevin Hart, I generally don't love his work, but it's undeniable that he's been pretty successful transitioning to Hollywood.
Chris Rock got several things.
He's making a Saw movie now.
Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems is a great dramatic movie, but he started as a stand-up. You have, George Lopez, his show was kind of not terrible for a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It was, but he started as a stand-up. But my point is proven that there are a lot of stand-up comics that make it into acting. And I think that that's a very important ability. The other big one. So that's comedians. And I'm going to come back to them because I've got another point that fits with everybody.
Okay.
Musicians.
What
are some things? Think about musicians and think about them coming into acting. What are some things that you've observed?
Well, let me start thinking about some musicians that have
John Legend.
Acting. John Legend.
He's one.
He's one. He's really good in La La Land. I don't know if I've seen him in anything else.
Yep.
But he does a pretty good job of playing basically a music guy.
Right.
So it's a lot of it's not so much acting necessarily. It's a lot of just drawing on his own experience.
Dolly Parton, another musician.
Yeah.
Who's been in a couple things. Taylor Swift has tried her hand a couple times, and I find it very common that if a musician is playing a character in a thing, they're often still musicians. Yeah. Because that's their skill is the thing. So with acting or with stand-up comedia. All right. Stand-up comedia. You've got people who know how to communicate things well. It's a skill that is applied to acting. Musicians don't really have that skill. They take more time to write into music, and you can't. Music does elicit emotion, but it's not a skill that can be directly translated to acting.
Yeah, I like your point. With comedians, you do think about what makes people tick, like as a performance, as a human interaction.
But psychology of people and how they react to
music is a completely different channel. It's a completely different approach, and you can be really effective at using your music to make people tick and get under their skin.
You can give people chills with a guitar, but that doesn't really apply to acting. Yeah. Necessarily. So we've talked about their ability to actually perform the thing, like the actual act of acting. I want to step kind of to a middle ground. Okay. To prior or before my bigger point or another big point. What what about their careers? Like their actual, what they do. So they've now acted. What kind of look at from the point they've moved into acting or like they've started their acting. What's their careers look like beyond that?
It seems like a lot of them generally move more into acting full time. I'm thinking Robin Williams.
Robin Williams is an actor.
Became an actor.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart still does stand up and does comedy, but he does a lot of movies.
You're right. They tend to gravitate more to just focus full time on that. And I think that's because that is a natural development. You will now have a broader reach. You can stretch more. What about musicians?
Musicians tend to do one or two things and then go back to music.
Exactly. They tend to always gravitate back to their career.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It might just be one part might just be a sunk cost kind of thing. You know, I've spent a lot of time and energy learning to be really good at my instrument, to my thinking about music. Movies are fun. I'll do it as like a little side thing to make some extra cash or whatever, or to see my face on the poster. But music is where I've spent all my time and energy. I can't just let that die away.
But I think other people, the difference between a musician and a stand-up comedian is you're objective in a way.
Okay.
Or not really necessarily objective, but what you enjoy doing.
Okay.
So stand-up comics, they enjoy making people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge, stand-up comics don't really they like the process, but their desire to do things isn't to write the set, but it's going through that work to make people laugh. It's about the performance, not the creative object. Exactly. And I think the musicians, there's a common feeling of just, I enjoy writing music. What's another reason? I have another reason, but I want to see if you've got any other reasons that. Since the skills don't transfer as effectively, they're not as good at it. Yep, that's exactly my other point. Boom, got him. Ed Sheeran is not a great actor. He was actually okay in that. He was fine. He was perfectly pleasant. But I think put under more stress of having to do more and carry more of a role, I don't think it would transfer well, and I think he knew that. Rihanna has been kind of wooden in whatever she's been in. She was in Battleship. Yep. She was in Valerian, City of Thousand Planets. Yeah. And I don't think we're going to see a whole lot more of her. Probably not. In movies. And it's not to say all musicians all go back. Right. I don't have any examples off the top of my head, but some musicians are also just naturally good actors. Yeah. And it doesn't really have to do with the fact that it's a skill transfer from their industry. Mm-hmm. It's just that they are naturally a good actor. And I think these comparisons and these theories on why things are can be applied to other industries. That's why with wrestlers, they do have an ability to put on a performance and try to connect with people, right? And may have an inherent ability to act. Now, here's the kicker for me. Here's what I think makes it's not a difference between the two, but it's something that I think that allows musicians to go into that as briefly as they do, and why you don't see a whole lot of a career accountant becoming an actor. It's the ability to handle the limelight. You don't see a lot of career accountants go into acting because you suddenly you're in front of billions of people, and you don't really know how to handle paparazzi and photo shoots and stuff. But everyone who's been a stand-up comic or a musician is familiar with being in the public eye and being smart about decisions they make in real life. Usually, I think that's a reason that maybe someone who was a career accountant went into acting and just could not handle it. And I think that is one of those really really critical points about why we see these people come in from these industries. Hey, Matt. Preston. Thesisize us. You're in the hot seat. You thesisize us. All right. I think when it comes to trying acting, your degree of success is determined by your ability to handle the limelight, your ability to, or committing to the career, and be able to psychologically connect with an audience. And I think for that reason, you see a lot of successful comedians. Yeah. Some successful musicians. Yeah. Not a lot of successful anything else besides career actors. Yeah. Hey guys, Preston here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you saw here, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we upload these every Thursday. If you want to hear more, we have an unabridged version on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, and any other podcast app. Check us out on Instagram at Justice Losers Pod. See you next week.